The hidden intelligence of parrots. Imagine you walk into a room, and your parrot suddenly says your name. Not because someone just taught it, not because it is simply copying a sound, but because it has learned that your name belongs to you. Some parrots can recognize people, solve complicated problems, remember objects, understand patterns, and even learn sounds that have meaning. And here's the strange part. Their brains are tiny compared with ours. So how can a bird with a brain that fits inside its skull be capable of such impressive thinking? The answer isn't simply that parrots are good imitators. Parrots have evolved a very different kind of intelligence. And once you understand how their minds work, you may never look at a parrot the same way again. Introduction. Parrots have always fascinated humans. Their colorful feathers get our attention. Their ability to mimic human speech makes us laugh. But behind those sounds is something much more interesting. A brain designed for learning. Parrots live in complex environments where food can be difficult to find, social relationships can change, and survival often depends on remembering what happened before. In other words, a parrot doesn't just need wings. It needs a good memory, flexible behavior, communication skills, and problem-solving ability. And scientists have discovered that parrots possess all of these abilities to a surprising degree. But where did this intelligence come from? Chapter 1. The parrot brain is small, but dense. At first glance, a parrot's brain doesn't look particularly impressive. It's tiny compared with a human brain. But size isn't everything. What matters is how the brain is organized. Parrots have large populations of neurons in regions of the brain associated with higher-level processing. In simple terms, they have a surprisingly powerful computer packed into a very small space. And this may help explain why parrots can perform behaviors that seem almost human. They can learn from experience. They can remember solutions. They can adapt when a problem changes. And some species can even understand relationships between objects. Think about that for a moment. If you give a parrot a puzzle, it doesn't necessarily keep making random movements forever. It can experiment, observe what happens, remember the result, and try something different. That's not just reflex. That's learning. Chapter 2. Parrots don't just copy sounds. This is probably the biggest misunderstanding about parrots. People hear a parrot say, "Hello," and assume the bird is simply copying a human voice. Sometimes, that's exactly what is happening. But parrots are also capable of learning sounds in social contexts. In the wild, many parrot species live in large social groups. Communication is extremely important. They need to recognize members of their group. They need to communicate danger. They need to find food. And they need to maintain relationships. Some parrots develop distinctive contact calls. These calls can function almost like individual acoustic labels. And this reveals something important about parrot intelligence. Their brains are built for communication. They're not just listening to sounds. They're constantly paying attention to who is making them, when they're being made, and what happens afterward. That's a much more complicated process. And it may help explain why parrots are so good at learning human sounds when they live around us. They're social learners. And humans just happen to be extremely interesting social partners. Chapter 3. The parrot that changed how we think about animal intelligence. One of the most famous examples of parrot intelligence came from an African gray parrot named Alex. Alex became widely known through research by animal psychologist Irene Pepperberg. Researchers didn't simply ask Alex to repeat words. They trained him to associate vocal labels with objects, colors, shapes, and quantities. And what made the research fascinating was Alex's ability to demonstrate understanding in controlled experiments. For example, he could identify characteristics of objects and respond to questions about them. The bigger lesson wasn't that Alex could speak English. He wasn't a little human trapped inside a bird. His intelligence was different from ours. But he demonstrated that a parrot could learn relationships between sounds, objects, properties, and concepts. And that challenged an old assumption, that animals only react to the world, rather than mentally representing it. Alex helped show that animal intelligence can be far more complicated than we once believed. Chapter 4. Parrots are problem solvers. Now imagine placing a treat inside a container. The parrot can't simply reach it. So what does it do? It investigates. It pulls. It bites. It moves objects. It tries different approaches. And eventually, it may discover a solution. This is where parrots become especially fascinating. Intelligence isn't just about knowing facts. It's about adapting when the situation changes. A smart animal doesn't need to memorize every possible problem. It needs to learn how to deal with new problems. And parrots can be remarkably flexible. That's extremely useful in nature. Imagine a bird searching for food in a forest. One day, the food is on the ground. The next day, it's inside a hard shell. Another day, it's hidden behind branches. The environment keeps changing. A bird that can learn quickly has an advantage. Over thousands of generations, natural selection can reward exactly that kind of flexibility. Chapter 5. Their social life may be making them smarter. Here's another piece of the puzzle. Parrots are often highly social animals. And living in a social world is complicated. You have to remember individuals. You have to understand relationships. You have to compete. You have to cooperate. You have to communicate. And you have to constantly pay attention to what everyone else is doing. Think about humans. A huge part of our intelligence is social intelligence. We remember faces. We understand emotions. We predict behavior. We learn from other people. Parrots face their own version of this challenge. Their social environment may have helped drive the evolution of sophisticated learning abilities. In other words, being social can be mentally expensive, and animals that live complicated social lives may benefit from complicated brains. Chapter 6. Parrots have something we often underestimate: curiosity. Watch a curious parrot for a few minutes. It may investigate your phone, pull at your clothes, open a container, drop an object just to see what happens. Then do it again and again. It can look like mischief, but curiosity has a biological purpose. Curiosity encourages an animal to explore. Exploration produces information. Information improves future decisions. For an intelligent animal, the world is basically one giant laboratory. Every object is a possible puzzle. Every new sound is information. Every unexpected event is something to investigate. And that's why keeping an intelligent parrot mentally stimulated is so important. A bored parrot isn't simply sitting around doing nothing. Its brain is looking for something to do. And if you don't provide a puzzle, the parrot may create one. Sometimes that puzzle happens to be your furniture. Chapter 7. But there's a dark side to parrot intelligence. There's something we often forget. High intelligence comes with high mental needs. A parrot isn't a decoration. It's not a colorful alarm clock. And it's not simply a bird that repeats funny words. It's a highly social, curious animal with a powerful capacity for learning. Without enough stimulation, interaction, exploration, and appropriate enrichment, a parrot can become frustrated or develop unwanted behaviors. This is one reason intelligent parrots can be challenging pets. The smarter the animal, the more complicated its needs can become. So, why are parrots so smart? Because evolution gave them a brain designed for something incredibly valuable: learning. They live in complex environments. They communicate. They form social relationships. They solve problems. They remember experiences. And they constantly adapt to a changing world. Their intelligence may look different from ours, but that doesn't make it less fascinating. The next time a parrot looks at you, tilts its head, and suddenly repeats something you've said, remember, you may not just be hearing a sound. You may be watching an intelligent animal trying to understand its world, and perhaps trying to understand you. If you enjoyed discovering the hidden intelligence of parrots, subscribe to Wild Physiology, because the animal world is full of minds that are far more fascinating than we ever imagined. And the next one might surprise you even more.